geographical location of Gambia is something that in itself deserves a separate discussion. The country, squeezed between Senegal on one side and the ocean on the other, is like a small island that they took and inserted into a huge painting, where all other details seem to be lost. It's not just geography. This is a challenge to anyone who thinks that a state should have a classic rectangular outline. Gambia stretches along the river like a string on a guitar, and this position makes its water resources vital. The Gambia River doesn't just divide the country in two, it connects its inhabitants, creating a unique ecosystem where you can find everything, from crocodiles to rare birds. Locals understand their geography not as an obstacle, but as an opportunity, using the river for fishing, agriculture, and even tourism development. Plus, this contrast between the riverbanks is a whole metaphor. On the one hand, traditional life; on the other, the influence of modernity, which is increasingly penetrating into everyday life. And this paradox makes you wonder, maybe it's in this strange situation that the real strength of Gambia lies. This is not just a place where you can lie on the beach. This is a territory where everyone can find their niche. And geography is not just a set of coordinates, but a living story told by the people who live here. Who are these people who live in Gambia? Don't think that it is some faceless people who just spin around their business. Gambians are a real palette of cultures and traditions. The first thing that catches your eye is the multinationality. More than 30 ethnic groups live here, and each of them is like a separate piece of a mosaic, which adds up to a unique cultural landscape. For example, Mandinka, Fula, and Serer. These are not just names, these are whole worlds with their own customs and languages. Have you ever heard of folk dances? So Gambians can set fire so much that you just won't have a chance to stand still. But as for the language, you can't do without ingenuity. The official language is English, but on the streets you will hear Creole and many local dialects. It's as if all your friends gathered in one room and everyone spoke their own, but everyone understood each other. Let's not forget about religion. Islam here is not just faith, it is part of everyday life. Most people are Muslims, and this is reflected in all aspects, from holidays to daily habits. But Christianity is not lagging behind either, and here is another layer in this cultural pie. And if you think that Gambians live in some protracted past, then you are deeply mistaken. New technologies are actively developing in the country. Young people are happy to master the internet and all its charms. So if you think that Gambia is only traditions, then you are clearly not aware of what is happening here. This is a place where old and new are intertwined, creating an incredible kaleidoscope that is worth seeing with your own eyes. When it comes to the languages of Gambia, you can't do without jokes here. The official language is English, but that doesn't mean you'll hear it on every corner. Gambia is a linguistic dump where the native languages of local people sound louder than English itself. Imagine on the streets you can stumble upon Creole, which, by the way, in itself is like a cocktail of English and local languages. Mandinka, Fula, and Serer. These are the three main players in the language field. There are not just a lot of them, there are tons of them here. You know, like we have colloquial dialects in Russia. So in Gambia, you will see the same thing, only many times more interesting. Each language is not just a set of words, it is a whole culture with its own history and traditions. For example, Mandinka is not just a language, it is a way of life that carries all the wisdom of the people. But Fula, with its rhythmic sounds, is like music that intertwines with everyday life. And yes, if you want to be in trend, learn local languages. This will not only become your trump card, but also open the doors to the hearts of Gambians. They appreciate it when foreigners try to speak their language. It's like if you came to a friend's house and started speaking in his native language and not in English. Understand, this immediately puts you on the same level with the locals. Don't be surprised if the locals start correcting you and laughing when you say something wrong. This is part of their charm. Gambia is not only a country with beautiful beaches and history, but also a real linguistic treasure trove where every sound and word matters. Gambia is rightfully called the smiling coast of Africa, and it's not just about its picturesque beaches. In fact, this name reflects something more, the mood and atmosphere prevailing in the country. At first, you might think that it's all just beautiful marketing, but as soon as you set foot on Gambian soil, you will be overwhelmed by the feeling that people really smile here. This is not just politeness or formality, as is the case in some countries. No, here you will be smiled at as if you are a long-awaited guest who has finally returned home. In In every look, in every greeting, even in a simple hello from locals, you feel sincerity. Surprisingly, in a country where the standard of living can cause bewilderment, locals still find a reason to rejoice. Just look at their everyday life, traditional dances, music, holidays. All this is overflowing with energy and light. For example, in the markets, you will see how people lively communicate, discussing not only goods, but also the latest news. This is not just an exchange of information, but an opportunity to feel part of the community. So when someone says that Gambia is a smiling coast, he is not joking. This is a place where even in the shade of tall palm trees and among noisy bazaars, smiles become the main language of communication. And you know what? These smiles are not erased by any difficulties. They are sincere, like the morning sun that rises over the Gambia River. So if someone tells you that a smile is a universal language, just send him to Gambia and let him see for himself. Gambia is not only a smiling coast, but also a cradle of history, which is intertwined with the fates of many African Americans. Surprisingly, it was from here, from Gambia, that ships in the past went to the New World, taking with them millions of people who became the basis for the African American community. On the banks of the Gambia River, there were once powerful trading ports, from where long and painful journeys into slavery began. These places today remind us of this difficult heritage, but instead of plunging into sadness, the locals prefer to celebrate their roots. Have you ever heard of the Golden Coast? Yes, it's not just a beautiful name, it's a symbol of life and struggle. Gambia is home to such cultures as Mandinka, Fulani, and other tribes who, despite all the trials, have preserved their traditions and customs. At festivals, you can see how they dance to the sounds of drums, and in these rhythms, you can read the history of several generations. Interestingly, even today in Gambia, you can meet African Americans who return to their historical homeland to restore ties with their ancestors. These are not just tourists, these are people who are looking for their roots. And you know, when they meet with the locals, it's always a bright moment, full of emotions and mutual understanding. Gambia is not just a country, this is a living memory of where it all began, and how history continues to influence us today. In Jufureh, this small but significant corner of Gambia, there is a museum that is not just called Heritage Museum. This place is like a window into the past, where even the walls seem to whisper about tragedies and triumphs. Here you can see artifacts that tell about the time when Jufureh was the center of the slave trade. You know, it's not just a set of old things. This is a real time machine that takes you to the era when people's lives depended on the whims of fate and human greed. The museum opened in 2006, and since then has become an important point on the map for those who want to understand how this place is connected with the history of African Americans. There are excursions here which are conducted by local residents, and their stories are not just facts, they are whole stories with emotions, where each object is a living testimony. For example, you can see old photographs that show what life was like in Jufureh before and after colonization. This is not just a dark memory, but a lesson that teaches us to value freedom and respect diversity. In general, if you are going to Gambia, the museum in Jufureh is not just a must-see stop, it is a chance to meet face-to-face with the history that shaped entire peoples. And yes, don't be surprised if after visiting, you want to immerse yourself in the study of your own history. Gambia is not only a country with a rich history, but also a real sacred abode for crocodiles. Yes, you heard right. These reptiles here are not just cold-blooded predators, but real cult creatures, which local residents revere as if they were old friends. In the village of Kuntu, for example, there is a famous crocodile pool, where crocodiles are absolutely not afraid of people. Here you don't have to hide behind bushes with a camera to catch a rare shot. They calmly lie on the shore, posing for tourists. Locals believe that crocodiles are the protectors of the village, and there is even a tradition of feeding them. Believe it or not, many residents regularly bring them chicken heads, as if it were not a predator, but a domestic pet. But this is not just a spectacle, it is part of ancient rituals rooted in the culture and beliefs of the people. In local mythology, crocodiles symbolize strength and wisdom, and oddly enough, many families associate their destinies with these reptiles. Imagine someone from the village can even name his child after a crocodile, which emphasizes respect and reverence for these creatures. So if you decide to visit Gambia, don't miss the opportunity to get to know these friends better. I assure you, this is not just a photo for memory, but a whole philosophy that makes you think about our place in the world. And who knows, maybe after such an acquaintance, you will also begin to appreciate crocodiles, and at the same time, local traditions, which it would seem are so strange and outlandish. And Kachikali is not just a pool, but a real mecca for lovers of unusual sensations and culture. Just imagine, this is a place where crocodiles are not only not scary, but also become part of rituals. In this body of water, located in Gambia, crocodiles can boast not only their size, but also their friendly attitude to people. Locals believe that the water in this pool has magical properties, and for good reason. Rites and ceremonies are held here that give health and good luck. But the most interesting thing is not only the belief in the power of water, but also how crocodiles interact with people. They seem to understand that in this place, they are not just wild predators, but important participants in local culture. You can see how locals easily approach them, and some even dive into the water without fear for their lives. This, of course, is not for the faint of heart, but here is proof that in Gambia, not only crocodiles, but also people can surprise. In Kachikali, you can not only take spectacular photos, but also immerse yourself in the atmosphere of local customs, which oddly enough sometimes seem more wild than the crocodiles themselves. So if you want to experience something really unusual and feel the spirit of Gambia for yourself, Kachikali is the very point that you should include in your itinerary. Let's talk about sports, which it seems has become a national religion in Gambia. Yes, you heard right. Football here is not just a game, it is a whole culture. Imagine streets full of children who chase the ball instead of sitting behind textbooks. They don't have expensive beads and swords, but that doesn't stop them from working miracles on improvised fields that can be found on every corner. If you think that football is just a sport, then you are deeply mistaken. For many Gambians, it is an opportunity to get out of poverty, a chance to become a star and conquer the world. Let's not forget that Gambia is a small country, but it has its own football heroes who go to the international arena and fight with the giants of the world. The Gambian national team, known as the Scorpions, is gaining popularity every year, and their fans are a separate story. They gather in crowds to support their team and sometimes create such noisy and vibrant atmospheres that even stadiums in Europe can envy. Football here is not just entertainment, it is a way to unite people, their hope for a better future. So if you ever find yourself in Gambia, be sure to look at the match. You will see how the ball rolls across the field and the hearts of the fans beat in unison. This is not just a game, it is a real life, full of passions and emotions. Gambia is not only football fields, but also nature, which is able to leave silent even the most sophisticated traveler. Have you ever seen how mangrove forests meet the clear waters of the Atlantic Ocean? It's not just a picture from a booklet about tourist routes, but a reality that hits you in the face with its beauty. Birds, which are more here than on any other continent, seem to have gathered at a party where everyone wants to be the center of attention. Their colorful plumage and incredible trills create a symphony that is not heard anywhere else. And if you decide to go to the Banjul National Park, be prepared to meet hippos that are absolutely not shy to pose for photographs. These giants are not just inhabitants of rivers, but real stars of Gambia. In addition, the Gambia River, winding like a snake, permeates the entire country and is an artery for the local ecosystem. Fishermen in their boats happily catch fish, and you can join them to understand what it means to live in harmony with nature. Don't forget about the beaches, which can compete with the best in the world. The sand here is so soft that the legs seem to sink into it, and sunsets are just a feast for the eyes. Just imagine, you are sitting on the shore, watching the sun go beyond the horizon, and the whole ocean seems to be blazing with fire. These are not just landscapes. This is real magic that makes you think about how beautiful it all is. Despite all the problems that the country faces, in Gambia, nature doesn't just exist, it lives, breathes, and most importantly, inspires. Now let's take a look into the world of wildlife of Gambia, where some of the rarest animals live, which can cause admiration even among the most experienced naturalists. For example, did you know that in this small country you can meet a mongoose, which looks as if it was chosen for the main role in some adventure film? These animals, with their indomitable spirit and playful disposition, sometimes behave as if they are real stars. But not only mongooses are able to surprise. Gambia is also home to a rare species of monkeys, green monkeys. Their bright faces and mischievous habits make them real clowns in the animal world. And if you're lucky, you can see them jumping from branch to branch, like participants in a circus act. However, that's not all. Nature here is generous with surprises. In rivers and swamps, you can find rare crocodiles that prefer to stay in the shade. But if you show patience, they can pleasantly surprise you. And don't forget about the birds. Gambia is home to such rarities as African flamingos, which spread their bright pink wings as if showing who is in charge in the sky. Birds in this region are not just feathered, but real living paintings, which change their colors every day under the sun's rays. In general, if you are looking for a place where nature can strike you to the depths of your soul, Gambia is exactly what you need. Here, every step can become the beginning of a new adventure, and every meeting with wildlife, an exciting moment that will be remembered for a lifetime. When it comes to safety in Africa, Gambia is in the forefront, and it's not just a beautiful word. While in other countries of the continent, you may encounter various adventures that are not always pleasant, Gambia holds a solid position. First, it should be noted that Gambia is a small country, and small size often means fewer conflicts. Here, the population lives in peace, and locals are generally friendly and open to communication. You will often see residents greeting tourists with a smile, as if you are an old acquaintance and not just another traveler. Secondly, Gambia has a stable government, which does everything possible to maintain order. After the political stability that the country has experienced in recent years, local authorities have focused on security for both citizens and tourists. These are not just words, but real work, which gives its fruits. Plus, the crime rate here is quite low compared to other regions. Of course, this does not mean that you should relax 100%. As in any other place, you need to be attentive to your things and avoid dark alleys. But in Gambia, compared to other countries, you are more likely to encounter goodwill and not aggression. So, if you are looking for a country where you can safely walk the streets, Gambia will be your ideal choice. In general, here you should not be afraid to go outside, but rather enjoy the fact that the world around is full of wonderful discoveries. Street drummers in Gambia are not just musicians, but real keepers of culture. Their percussion is the language spoken by the whole country. Have you ever heard the sounds of drums merge with the noise of the streets, creating such a rhythm that you are simply drawn into a dance? So here, drummers turn every street into a stage and every corner into a performance venue. In Gambia, these guys are not just entertaining passers-by, they are telling stories. Every rhythmic roll and accent are echoes of an ancient tradition that is passed down from generation to generation. Their music is not just entertainment, it is a way of communication, a way to connect people. And yes, it's also a good business. On the streets of Banjul, you can often see a crowd gathering around the drummers, and not only tourists, but also locals. They stop to listen and sometimes even participate in improvised dances. But don't think it's just entertainment. Street musicians play an important role in preserving the cultural identity of Gambia. They pass on knowledge about traditions, history, and customs, making their work almost a mission. And of course, when you see how children come to learn from the masters, you realize that these rhythms continue to live. So if you ever find yourself in Gambia, don't pass by. Stop and immerse yourself in this world of sounds and rhythms. In the end, if not you, then who? Do you know what Gambia and European pensioners have in common? It's not just sunny beaches and tropical cocktails, but also a special atmosphere that attracts people who have worked out their share at home. Gambia is not just a resort. This is a whole world where you can forget about gray weekdays and enjoy life. First, the climate here is just a fairy tale. The average annual temperature is about 30 degrees. The sun shines almost all year round, and cold winters are not about Gambia. For pensioners who are already tired of frost and grayness, it's like a breath of fresh air. Secondly, here is quite a low cost of living. For the same amount that you spend on a cup of coffee in Europe, in Gambia you can dine in a fancy restaurant. It is not surprising that many decide to change cold apartments to cozy bungalows by the sea. And of course, don't forget about the locals. Gambia is known for its friendly population, which will gladly accept you into their family. Elderly people here feel at home. After all, there is no arrogance here, only sincerity and openness. And cultural events, such as festivals and fairs, allow you not only to have fun, but also to immerse yourself in local traditions. As a result, Gambia becomes a real paradise for those who want not only to relax, but also to find a second life, full of bright colors and new acquaintances. So, if you are thinking about where to go on retirement, it may be worth paying attention to this sunny place. But here's a riddle. What do Gambia and the megaliths in Wassu have in common? The answer is simple: mystery and color. These stone giants scattered across the savannah are like aliens from the past. And indeed, they represent an African analog of Stonehenge. These megaliths are not just stones. They are witnesses of ancient civilizations that once inhabited these lands. Imagine, several thousand years ago here, in the heart of Gambia, people gathered at these stones, performed rituals, and celebrated events that can only only cause bewilderment today. It is said that the weight of these stone blocks reaches several tons, and someone had to spend a lot of time and resources to install them. These are not just stones, but an embodiment of human perseverance, which is able to move mountains, in this case, literally. Locals still tell legends about how these megaliths guard the land and keep the secrets of ancestors. Some even claim that these stones have a special energy that can heal and give strength. Of course, skeptics may snort and say that it's all fiction, but who among us can deny that history is not always transparent? So if you decide to look into Gambia, do not miss this mysterious site. The megaliths of Wassu are not just stones. This is the key to understanding how long-gone civilizations perceive the world around them. They not only make you think about the past, but also give you the opportunity to touch something bigger than ourselves. Gambia Friends turned out to be a real find for lovers of history and culture. This country is not just a point on the map, but a living canvas on which traditions, customs, and facts are intertwined, which are able to surprise even the most sophisticated traveler. Just imagine, here, among the hot sun and endless expanses, tribes continue to exist, carefully preserving their customs, like old books, in which each page hides a secret. They say that Gambia is not just a pearl of Africa, but a real treasury of history, where each village has its own unique legend. And what about local cuisine? It will make you forget about the diet. After all, how can you resist the aroma of freshly prepared casa, which is simply maddening? And here's the question: what fact about Gambia struck you the most? Write in the comments. We'll figure it out together. Don't forget to like if you liked it, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss even more interesting stories about countries that never cease to amaze. Gambia is only the beginning.